Samson Abioye, I mentioned how impactful this guy was to my life. And without him and her, I won't be here. And I just have to say that. Something he didn't know about business plans and everything. He put it all together, and then he applied on the behalf, and it was like, Imole. One day he called me, was like, yeah, Imole, remember that thing we talked about? I said, yeah, it was a 440 NG in Lagos. It was an accelerator, just like Y Combinator or whatever. At least that was like Nigerian version. And then it was like, oh, Imole, do you know they actually asked us to come for an interview? I was like, what? In 440 NG? No way. And then he called me up and was like, Imole, we got in. I was like, what? I was like, what do you think? Would you like to come to Lagos? Come to Lagos. We are resuming next Monday. I was like, I'm not sure, like, how, why? It was like, yeah, Imole, I need you on this thing. And then I said, okay, fine. I was just gonna go. So I went. I think this day 2 was like a Monday, and then I ended up in Ikoyi. I remember stepping into the elevator for the first time in my life, like a lift. And there's a lift. And then by the time the lift opened up, even though I was feeling all dizzy and everything, by the time the lift opened up like this, I saw white people everywhere. I was like, what? I felt like I should enter the door, the elevator again. That door was like the door that opened me up to global opportunities, essentially. That elevator door. And that door was facilitated by this guy here. In community, especially community with the right people, I think that I'm a Christian, yeah, and I think this morning I was talking to my wife about how Christianity is so powerful, but at the same time, the power of it may not be realized as much as one wants to, unless it is applied. And for those of us who went to science schools or science University of Technologies, there's things like pure and applied sciences, where you would see like the theoretical, and then it's supposed to be the applied bit. Christianity is supposed to be applied as well, and I think that some of the things that we can actually get out of that will probably be things like friendship, for example, which we're going to be talking about. Muiwa shared and by the way, thanks Muiwa for putting all of this together. Your consistency in doing this every year, I think is to be celebrated. And I pray that the results, the benefits of all of this, would be evident in your life and in the life of everyone here as well. So that's out of the way. Muyo has asked me, can you all hear me though? It feels like everybody's camera is off. And sometimes when the internet is flaky, everyone's camera will be off but mine. And I think that's like a new update on Google Meet.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'm gonna share my screen, and then by the time I get into it, that will serve as a guide. But mostly, I'm probably just gonna stray away from the presentation that I have. I'm trusting God that you would help us to see some things today, that it will help us to understand, including me. Because some of the things that I probably will talk about here is even something that even me would be learning from. Sometimes when we were sharing this topic with me, I thought about it because it was like, yeah, you can actually you can twist and turn it the way you want, and I felt like that's cool. Other than in my mind, I was like, God, I'm not sure I'm qualified to actually talk about friendships. For a lot of reasons. I've had my fair share of like amazing friendships, but at the same time, sometimes some of the friends in my life right now, sometimes I feel like I let them down. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I let them down. And that's why even this talk that I'm going to give to you guys is going to be something that even me will learn from. And also, my wife was here yesterday, and some of you were on the call with her. Again, she's someone that I learned a lot about what amazing, divine, and very intentional friendship that I learned those from. She's the goodness, or she's the goodness of me. I don't know if that makes sense. She's the goodness of me. And so some of the things that I've got to talk about will be things that I've picked from her, and then I've probably then processed, and then I'm just bringing it out to you guys. So just to lay the foundations for all of those things that we're going to get into. So yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and so we can get into it. I didn't really touch much about the topic. It's still gonna be about friendships, especially in times of crisis. But the crisis bits will come in and out. I'm gonna focus more on friendship, and especially how I have had. I mean, the great friendships I've had, how they've affected my life, the drawbacks of some friendships, and how I've dealt with them, and of course how my personal life experiences, have also affected my friendships and what I'm doing about them now. I'm still in my 30s, which is really, really good. So, Mr. By God's grace, I still have, I'm learning a lot about a lot of things in life. So I can still apply, some of these things that also going to be learning here today into task screen 2. Okay, cool. Here we go. Yeah, all right, cool. You guys let me know whether you can see my screen, something that says the power of friendship in times of crisis and its lasting impact.
Yes, we can say it.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Here we go. So what am I going to talk about? We want to consider what the power of friendship is. And I think we also want to look at, what that looks like, especially in extreme times of crisis. And of course, what the impact of like friendship is on like person life. And I'm going to use my own life as a case study in this. God help me. Okay. So okay. Right. So looking at our agenda, right? We want to look at who is Imole, right? Some of you may know me, some don't. And I would give a little bit of like an overview about me, apart from the things that you've already heard in the introduction. Perfect, very good introduction. Also, we'll look at crisis, we'll look at friendship, the dictionary definition of these things, and probably the what transpires between the two and why the two of them are somehow almost always finding themselves. Also, we look at building resilience friendships. Like what are the ingredients? What are the key things there? There are a lot of things. I just narrowed them down to like a bunch of things, communications, things like that. We'll pick them one by one and we sort of like go into it. And I'll give like real life examples. And guys, at this point, ask questions or just note down your question and ask it after. Anyone is fine. And then we'll look at common challenges to friendships. There's one more item here that we have. Anyway, we do all of that. We look at all of that, and then we would look at question and answers, which I'm hoping that will be a fun part. All right, so let's jump into it. Right. So I'm Imole Oluyemi, like you all know, and I would say categorically that my life, I would not have been here where I am today, who I am today, without I would say that some of the key junctions of my life where I experienced quite a lot of, where I experienced breakthroughs, some strategic breakthroughs in my life, has been born and orchestrated and midwifed, by friends, amazing friends. And if you look at this picture here, the one here, you'd see me amidst two friends. A lot of people that know me probably know the story of these three friends here. Samson Abioye of blessed memory, myself, and Abayomi Akonji. The three of us started a company, Puzzle NG, and that was like my foray into tech, essentially. Yes, I read computer science, but guess what? A lot of people did. My computer science department class, my computer science class in Lautech, Ubumasho, 2014 sets was over 600. I remember at least the computer science, and then there's computer engineering. So they altogether were probably about over 1,200 or so. And I can say that maybe only 40% of us ended up like in tech, and really practicing. That's an anecdotal data. It's just based on like friends and people like still being in WhatsApp groups of like, and seeing what people are actually doing with their lives now. And so I could have read computer science and not end up in tech. I'll probably be doing something else. I don't know, maybe start a ministry and be a pastor. And then on right here is me and my lovely wife. She was here yesterday, so you guys know. And all of these pictures were just like a week apart, and this was 2016. And I think one key thing that I want to draw out in these pictures is the longevity of the friendships that you can see here. My wife, and I think she qualifies as a friend here because she's not just my wife; she's my very good friend. And I think sometimes we sit down and we talk about our experience in this marriage, even though she doesn't like talking about it. I'm like, babe, let's do a retrospective of our marriage and things like that. But one thing that stands out and is very obvious to the two of us is the fact that we are friends first before we are, I don't know, married people. So sometimes the family members will come in and maybe they'll see me do something at home or whatever, and then they'll be wondering, why is your wife looking at you doing this thing, or that when she's doing something, why is the husband, and both of us will be looking at ourselves like, I beg, you people don't even understand. So yeah, those kind of things. But I will talk a little bit more about all of these relationships that I have here, and how those relationships have really shaped me, and some key junctions of my life. And maybe I should just give you an highlight of it. 2014. Yeah, sorry. Who's that? Any question? Oh, okay. 2014. I just finished Lautech. I started my own business. I was doing a printing business. I had a relatively small shop, under G. Those of us who probably, some of you, if you went to Lautech, you probably will know that G is like a popular spot. I had a shop there. Maybe I call it an office, but sure, a shop, whatever. And I had a big banner and everything, and the business was good. We were printing for all of the almost 80% of the campus fellowships and all those things in the Ogun show. It was cool, right? And I thought I was gonna sit, like at some point I genuinely believed that I was gonna be based in Ogun for the rest of my life. Because I already started a business, I had graduated, I had all the time to just focus on the business. And I had my lovely fiance at the time. She's also in her final year, I think. And it was like, hey, we'll just settle in Ogunshaw. Maybe we'll just go and get a place in, I don't know, Saleh General or whatever, and we'll be fine. And genuinely, I genuinely thought that was going to be it for me. But I remember, right before we graduated, still early 2014, maybe 2014. I typically 2 years before then, I had served in MFMCF Lautech as a general secretary. This was my 400 level, and I did my IT in Lautech ICT. So I was in Ogbonshaw for my IT for 6 months, and Samson was also doing his IT. This was how we got to meet. He was in computer engineering, I was in computer science, so there was probably no reason. We probably wouldn't have met on a normal day. Maybe if we did, we knew each other, but just to say hi, hi. But during the IT, we got to spend some time together, just talk about random things. And that carried on to when we resumed back to 500 level and we started doing things. But 2014, things took a little bit of a turn. I started noticing a lot of things going on in tech in Nigeria. The Kongas and the Jumias became a thing, and people were beginning to raise money and stuff like that. So I just read more about it, and me and Samson just talk about it randomly. Maybe I'm just one guy, and then of course the fact that I then became a printer. And then one day I was just telling him about how when we did the um what you might call it. There's this book that you do when you want to graduate, and everybody in the class will do. What's it called? What's it called? Yearbook.
Yeah, bro.
Essentially. So I was lucky enough to do yearbook for a bunch of departments. Because again, it was lighthouse, 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 and I had a lot of so I was doing that, and I remember that 2014 I made my first on 100,000 naira. 100,000 naira then is probably equivalent of like a million naira now, maybe more. At least I know things have devalued 10x, minimum of 10x since that time. So it's definitely at least a million, if not 2 million. So this was someone that was still, and then I was about to graduate. I had not graduated at the time, so I had a 100K, and I was just thinking about like, what am I going to do? My first 100K, and I decided I was going to go and use it to rent a shop and open up an office and did all the jazz with it. And I did. I was speaking with something about it, and it was really wild because it felt like this guy must be like he must be a risk taker. Like how a typical person will make 100K, for the first 100K, you want to save it, go and save it, put in a bank somewhere. Me, I decided to go and blow everything on business, and I blew everything, and I was down to zero again, right? And so that really, and then the fact that I then did the office, and then when he came to the office one day, saw people there, we were training people, we were doing stuff, we were doing all of stuff. Like it was just things were looking good. So it felt like this is the kind of guy that if he wants to build a business, he was gonna go with. I didn't even know he had already made up his mind on all of that, right? The only thing is, I just knew that he took interest in me, and that was it. So we became closer and closer. And then one day he called me up. I have been doing stuff for this thing that he's been building about test prep and everything. He's a very good programmer. Probably like one, if you count one to top 5 programmers in Lautech at the time, Samson's definitely part of them. Maybe top 2, maybe top 10. And so everybody, he had built stuff for ICT, for Lautech, for all sorts of people as at the time. And so a lot of people had a lot of respect for him. And so I started building this thing. We talked about an investor, whatever, in Lagos, and he applied. Something he didn't know about business plans and everything. He put it all together, and then he applied on the behalf, and it was like, Imole. One day he called me, was like, yeah, Imole, remember that thing we talked about? I said, yeah, it was 440 NG in Lagos. It was an accelerator, just like Y Combinator or whatever. At least that was like Nigerian version. And then it was like, oh, Imole, do you know they actually asked us to come for an interview? I was like, what? In 440 NG? No way. Chicken will be no way. And that was it. Went for the interview. I wasn't part of it. I couldn't make it that day. I couldn't make it that day. He went and maybe one or two other folks. And then I think it was it was late August, maybe early June, early September 2014. We had graduated fully at the time. I was still doing my business fully at the time. I just do stuff for Jam CBT, whatever. That's the name we called it, Jam CBT something. And then he called me up and was like, Mole, we got in. I was like, what? I was like, what do you think? Would you like to come to Lagos? Come to Lagos. We are resuming next Monday. I was like, I'm not sure, like how, why? It was like, yeah, Imole, I need you on this thing. Come. And I was like, okay, officially, like I've been doing stuff just because Samson's my guy. And then I said, okay, fine. I was just gonna go. So I went. Following I just prayed about it, and I was like, I told my guys, I have a partner who was running the business in the one shop with me. So I told him that I don't know what this thing is, but I think I want to see what it is. So I went to Lagos, and I think this day 2 was like a Monday, and then I ended up in Ikoyi. I remember stepping into the elevator for the first time in my life, like a lift. And there's a lift. And then by the time the lift opened up, even though I was feeling all dizzy and everything, by the time the lift opened up like this, I saw white people everywhere. I was like, what? I felt like I should enter the elevator again. Because I was thinking, at least when the lift opens, then you then go into a corridor and then go open a door and then you enter the place. No, this one was the door of the Lagos garage, as they call it then. No, number 1 Bankole Oki Ikoyi then. I can remember. It was the penthouse of the building, and the door was the elevator. So by the time I opened like this, it was just white people everywhere. I was like, what? Me from Oguwonsho, this Oguwonsho boy. And that was the beginning. That door was like the door that opened me up to global opportunities, essentially. That elevator door. And that door was facilitated by this guy here. Friendship. Um, my wife, my lovely wife, I had known about the global talent visa, and I think this is one thing that there's a lot of things that she's done in my life, but I think this one I remember. I just got fired from I just got fired from ULSN. This was as a result of like a disagreement between me and Sim Shagaya. You guys may know him. He's the founder of ULSN, also the founder of Niva University now. And he fired me, and I was sitting down. This was COVID time, 2020, and I was just thinking about what I'm going to do with my life next. I was at that point, I was tired of Nigeria, tired of everything. I didn't even know what to do. I was just trusting God. And my wife came by my door one day. I was working on my laptop, and then she was like, "Hey, babe, this global talent visa thing that you've heard about since 2018 and you did nothing about. Do you want to give it a shot?" I had forgotten about it. Because a friend of mine, which another friendship thing I need to point to, had come to my house. Someone that we finished from Lautech together. Come to my house in 2018. We just talking and was like, "Hey, Imole, I just got this thing called Global. I got an endorsement. I'm going to apply for my visa next week, or maybe the next day, whatever." And I was like, "What's that?" And he explained, and I was like, "Yeah, I got this." And I think, Imole, you can get this thing. You, with all your profile, whatever, you will. If me can get it, you can get it. I was like, I didn't know. And but at that point, I was like, "Well, there's money to be made in Nigeria. Me, I just like to travel and come back." And my wife just reminded me in 2020, this thing that Kenny told you about. What do you think? I was like, "Wow." It was like the breakthrough I needed. I needed at that point. My spirit said yes. And that's how I went to Google everything. And I messaged my friend Kenny. How far, Kenny? It's been a while, whatever. I was like, it's like that thing I don't already now. It was like, I thought you were not seriously. That you and Balabu want to whatever. I said, and that was it. The guy was, was able to guide me, put together all of my application. I think I did everything within like a week or two. And all of the people that I needed letters from, Inyaboeji, Shewoni Gbide, all of those people, the top guys, Yomi of Softcom, all of those people. By the time I was messaging them, they were just answering me like, Mole will understand. All right. What do you need? What do you need? And they were just getting me all the things I needed. I was shocked. I was even feeling like, would they answer me? Would they have? Even though those people know me and know my work and things, would they have? And all of those things just fell in place, all because my wife suggested it. And by the time this was like June 2020, maybe July, I remember, whatever. By October, the first week of October, maybe the 2nd of October, we were 3rd or 4th of October, we were already in the UK as a global talent family, essentially. And these are key things that have made a key difference in my life. The combination of those two, something like this guy did and what this woman did in my life, is where I am today. Open the door to where I am today. So what is friendship, right? What is friendship? Friendship is a voluntary, mutual, and sustained relationship between individuals characterized by emotional bonding, trust, and shared experiences. And I think I want us to look at the emotional bit. I want to look at the trust bit, and I want to look at the shared experiences. One of the key things, and I think I also start from the back of it. One of the key things, I another thing that I didn't tell you guys about myself is that I, in a weird way, I'm an only child to my parents, mostly because my dad and my mom they they separated when I was around 2 years old, and so they both went eventually after some time went to marry, separately. My dad went to marry another person, my mom went to marry another person, and they both had at least one child each from those marriages, at least the ones that I know of. And so I had half brothers and sisters, but to the two of them, I'm just one person. I'm just the only child. And one of the saddest things that's happened in that time is that, number one, I'm 10 years older than the nearest sibling to me, or the nearest half sibling to me, 10 years. And also we didn't grow up in the same household. On my dad's side, I my half sister was born, or my stepsister, no, not stepsister, my half sister was born while I was there living with not my dad technically, but my dad's wife and with my stepmom. And I lived with them till she was around 2, and something happened. My dad took me. They fought and went their separate ways, and so I didn't see my half sister again for another 10 years. I think no, maybe 15 years. And then on my mom's side, while all of this drama is going on, my mom already had another son, and I didn't see him until he was maybe 4 or 5. And then by that time, I was already about to go to higher institution. So I left home for Polytechnic, Barometer and Polytechnic Jebugo for 1 year ish. And then from there, I moved to Lautech and I spent 6 years thanks to strike. And while I was there, I didn't really go home to them. I was going home to my cousins in Ijebuode. And so by the time I was done with all of this drama, all of them are already grown up, and we didn't really have so much shared experiences, and that went on to have a lot of impact on our relationship. And so one of the key things that actually makes and what is shared experiences? Like, it's just little things. Is the things that you do together, the times when both of you are going on the way and police stop you and there was drama and the two of you have to, fight your way out of those things. The things that you experience together, that whenever you meet, you can always say, you remember that time that we were clinical and you all talk about it and laugh and laugh and laugh. Or remember that person that did one thing once and you laugh and laugh and laugh. It may be good thing, it may be a bad experience, maybe good experience, maybe something in the middle, but that you have those things and you have an history of those shared experiences, That shared experience is very important, and it goes a long way in one's relationship. And I also say something about shared experiences. As you grow older, and you suddenly realize, and I think, guys, you are gonna be seeing me just talking sporadically. So please pick things there. I'll try to be as logical, sequential as possible. But as you grow older, you'd realize that your friendship, your ability to really make deep friends, and I think this is because there are different types of friendships, right? We know that they're like people that are in your inner circle, like someone that really knows you. That if they say, "Hey, what's this person's favorite color? What's this person's favorite meal?" They can actually tell. They may not even be your spouse. They are just your friend, and because you have so a long history of shared experiences, bonding, trust, all the things that happen to you, your relationship has compounded over time. Those kind of friends, those are the closest you have. And then outside of that, they're like, just acquaintances and folks who, yeah, you still talk, you are in good terms. If they need to recommend you for something, they will recommend you. If you need to help them, you help them. But they don't know the depth of you. If you are going through something, they can never know, right? Unless you just, maybe they saw it on you or something, they can never know. They are not the same as those first category of friends, right? And then there are people that just know you, for whatever. And those are like the outside ones, like your fans, essentially. And so there are like 3 levels, at least the way I see it. Others, there are different levels. Different people have defined it different ways. But those are the 3 levels that I know. And the older you become, the less of those first category of friends you will get. And it's understandable, especially because it takes time. Also because everybody else have already made those types of friends, and so they do not, they probably wouldn't, they are not so happy. Not happy is not the word. They are not it's not so easy for them to then bring a new person to their into their that inner sanctuary, of their hearts, right? I'll give you an example. I was invited by a friend to so I went to I was in America. I went to San Francisco for an event and I was there for a while. And then I met this guy. He's a founder, XYC guy, and he's Nigerian. So we just got talking. He really liked me. It was my guy. We spoke, and the 1 week, 1 week plus or so that I was in San Francisco was, we spent it together. And so when I landed back in London, he was like, "Hey, Baba, can you believe my 40th, maybe 45th, 40, no, 41st birthday was coming up, like the 2 days time or 3 days now, whatever. And I would like for you to be there." And I was like, "Oh, wow, nice. I'm gonna be there. Just send me the dates, right?" He sent me the address, and I was like, "Oh, cool." And then 3 days later, we met at this, nice restaurant in London, and he was there. And before I knew, some of his friends were also there as well. It was quite a lot of people anyway. And then we were introducing ourselves. And first, what I noticed was that by the time I told, they were again, by the time I saw those, well, when they were seeing me, those who are his friends, I could tell that they've been together for a long time. By the time they were introducing themselves, they said that they all went to the same university, Babcock University. And this was like, I don't know, 20 something years ago. And that and they could tell everything about him. Like he was there, through all of it. When they had their kids, he was there. He's the godfather of like all of their kids and all those things. You see the depth of the relationship. So, which means that his vulnerabilities they know, right? And so I can see that they were just trying to be nice to me, but I could tell that they were repellent. They weren't so open to embrace me into that community. They already formed. All of them are in their 40s, and there's this random guy that just showed up from nowhere. And to make it worse, by the time they asked me, how did you know X? I was like, I only knew him like 1 week ago. We met in America, and he invited me to this place, and I showed up. While they commended me for showing up for someone that you just knew like a week ago, deep inside I saw that they weren't necessarily receptive to me stepping into that group that they've carefully, and I don't know, watered and tended to over the years, over 20 something years. And I think it's understandable, right? And this would lead me to like the next point, which would be that, for such friendship that you have built, um, there will be a lot of things. And if you imagine what would have happened to them in that 20 something years, they would have fought, they would have made up, they would have broken up, they would have made up. A lot of things would have happened to them. They would have cried together, laughed together. They build each other out of several problems. They will have borrowed each other different money and return it or not return it or whatever. All of that is gonna have happened in that 23 years, right? We'll start looking at all of this. Can we take a lens or a touchlight or whatever and shine it upon your own relationships that is something of that level of bond? Of course, if you are 20 years old, you probably don't have a relationship of 20 years, but you may have one of 10 years, maybe of 5 years, whatever, right? And if right now those relationships are not looking like they're working out, what can you do to make sure that you preserve them? For those of you here who are like in your late 20s, maybe early 30s, chances are you cannot abandon your own inner circle and want to go and adopt another person's inner circle. Chances are it will not happen. At best, you will only be in the second category that I described. People that they would know, they would like, they were able to help and all those things, and that's fine. But you will find that you cannot even share your deepest, I don't know, worries or emotions, whatever, with them, and vice versa, essentially. So you want to make sure that your own relationships that you've groomed over the years, you do everything possible to keep them. You do everything possible to grow them. You do everything possible to make sure that that relationship endures, right? Because if it's last minute, you cannot abandon it and go and enter into another person's relationship. It's difficult, and this also happens to marriages. For several of you on this call, sometimes you may know one or two people that probably started dating their spouses from school, some from secondary school, some from university. For me, my babe and I, you can see, I was 2016. We've been dating since 2012, 2012, right? There's almost nothing about me that she doesn't know, and there's nothing about her that I don't know. Like we dated for 6 years before we got married. Um, and you know, I'm just imagining if I had not started that relationship in 2012, and now in my 30s, now when I want to go and say hello, baby, to somebody random and say, hey, I want to marry you. While that happens, the chances are we would while that happens, you can actually get married anytime because there's nothing God cannot do. The what would be missing there would most likely be the friendship aspect. That friendship aspect will be missing. You remember what I said at the beginning that my wife and I are first friends before anything else, is because of the long history of shared experiences, which has helped with trust, bonding, and an emotional bonding essentially, right? So you can be married to someone and not necessarily be friends, and that's fine because marriage in itself is not love is just one component of it, right? The most important component of a marriage is not even to make it work. You just need to be both of you just need to be responsible, right? You need to know that okay, this is a responsibility, and I have to perform my duty. Period. Right? And I just have to do it with with love. I have to do it with understanding, with emotional maturity, and of course with empathy. Essentially, if you have all of that, a marriage would definitely work. You can last 100 years, right? But sometimes you may wish that you are also friends as well, like just play buddies or whatever, because that also just had some icing on the kid on that cake. So that still takes me back to like friendship and stuff. So the longer you've had that history, especially in the time when relationship has not kicked in and responsibility has not kicked in, right? The the more the more the bond of friendship actually strengthens. And so yeah, I'll leave that there. So let's go into crisis. Because I think I've been going round and around in circles. Okay, maybe. So the crisis bit. They say crisis is a turning point, a critical situation that creates significant disruption, pressure, or instability, requiring immediate attention and potentially causing substantial change in one's life or circumstance. I think that friendships, crisis or not, um, a good friendship is needed, even in times of both in times of crisis and in times of peace essentially. Um, Sometimes people that you are not so close, where if you have shared crisis experience, permit me to say that, you may actually find that you may actually become very close. Sometimes in my life, I think that some of the people that I became really close to, especially when I was in secondary school, maybe my early days in Lautech as well, or in higher institution generally, people that we started up on a very wrong foot, we end up being super, super, super close. I don't know, maybe because there's always something that we can refer to and laugh about, right? Um, or like maybe relationships that I had in the past, for example, you just be like somebody that will say Ori to be Ori Kiri, whatever, and they will become really. But that's just one bit. But there's one thing about crisis that actually bring people really, really, together, and I'll share one. If I go back to this slide, Samson Abioye, I mentioned how impactful this guy was to my life. And without him and her, I won't be here, and I just have to say that. Because I wouldn't know where I wouldn't know. Who knows? But I probably won't be here. Samson went to be with the Lord in 2017. Sadly, he was 27 years old at the time, and It was all sudden, super sudden. It was due to a health complication, which, you know, sometimes I just now that I now that now, uh, yeah, now we can, yeah. It's just anyway. He's my best friend. He's my best friend. And when that happened, it was just left with me and Abayomi. And me and Abayomi were not necessarily very, very close. We were all co-founders, but he was my best friend, especially because we were closer in age, and of course we have a lot more shared experiences. You get the point. See where I'm going. But his passing became, I was overwhelmed with so much emotion, and he also was, because he's close to him. I'm close to him. He was like the bond between the two of us. But you see, the crisis of his death, of his passing, uh, to put it in a better way, brought the two of us together, because a lot of things then happened afterwards. Because by the time he passed, we had a lot of struggles with. Number one, there was a lot of there was a lot of expectation as per whether we'll be able to keep the business running. That one was there, so both of us needed to work together to make things work well. There was a project we were working on with the federal government. We were National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. We were the ones that initially converted their exams from paper pencil. This was the number one postgraduate medical college in Nigeria. And we were converting their exams from paper pencil to CBT essentially. And typically we are the consultants helping them do that, based on the work we've done with passenger. Yeah. And so these small boys, be uh, we would be helping them conduct CBT exams for top medical people, like consultants across, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 states in Nigeria, across them concurrently. And so we would have to send guys. We are coordinating like tens of people just to make sure that things actually work smoothly, right? And I remember we did the first the pilot of it, and it didn't really go well. But everyone was like, yeah, it was the first time. There was a lot of compromises and things like that, and we all learned from it. But right after we did the first one, they do it like twice a year. It was like March 2017, and something passed in July. We were supposed to do the second one in September. Something passed in July, and we only had about a month. And something was, of course, it was the CEO, right? And we needed, and this was a major revenue earner for the business. And I remember having to step in with Abayomi. Abayomi is a software engineer. I am everything else. I am the guy that does everything else. I remember having to step in. For me and Abayomi, we went to that place, and we went to show them, because at the point, all of those big professors were like, there was no way they can continue. Your CEO has died, and we sympathize with you, but we need to get other people, other consultants in to help us with this, because now there's no way, and we know that you guys are briefing and things like that. So whatever, we had to step in because we have people to pay. We staff members that we needed to pay their salaries. I looked at the account. By the time it was passing, maybe less than 500,000 was there. I needed to pay salaries. We need to do all of those things. We needed to step in. Now Abayomi was there. It was like anytime I say Imole, yeah, Abayomi, yeah, he's there. We would enter the car and drive, Janiki, all of those different places. And we went there, we showed them a demo, we showed them that we could actually deliver on that project. And by the time we did that project in September, it was way better. I'm sure Samson was looking down and was smiling. It was way better than what happened in July. It was super successful. And by the time we were doing it again in March 2018, they had expanded the scope of the project, but now they have confidence that we can actually deliver. Right? And all of that made me and Abayomi become super close, to the extent that he left for the UK in 2019 as a Chevening scholar, And by the time I was, yeah, I told you that somebody told me about global talent visa. By the time I got into, by the time I got to the UK and no, by the time I got the global talent visa endorsement, I just called about me. I was like, hey, Eddie, I got this thing. He knew I was already working on it. And as I got this thing, Eddie, he was even thinking that, oh, maybe he won't be able to do it, whatever. I was like, take me back to shit. Because I could do it, you can do it, right? And today we are both here. The funniest thing is that we live in the same. We bought our houses close to each other, essentially. That's the depth of our relationship today, right? And it is forged out of that crisis. Again, in 2018, both of us we went for someone's like a staff member of our company. One of our staff was doing his introduction, and so we said, okay, yeah, let's just drive. We went to Ondo, we went to what's this place in Ondo? We share one place in Ondo State, and we were coming back. We were involved in an accident. I was the one driving. We were involved in an accident. It was my car, and it was a write-off, complete write-off. There were 5 of us in a car. Nobody died, to God be the glory. A week after that, maybe 2 weeks after that, he also was going to Beaumont, or maybe Ilorin, and he drove his own car, went and came, and as he was coming back to Lagos, he was involved in an accident as well, and they had to tow the car to Lagos. It was really that bad. So we have seen the ups and the downs together, right? We've seen the ups and the downs, and that forged our relationship. So the extent that now, like, I may not see him in 2 weeks. Like, we go to the same church, yeah, but he's busy, and we may not talk. But if I pick up my phone and say, hey, the alpha now, we can talk for the next 1 hour plus, or 2 hours, or whatever. Or whatever. Like, if he's doing some core things that a lot of people don't know about, he would call me. Some of the key things in my life, when I had my daughter, which was Abami was there in our house. It was just, he didn't go anywhere. It was just there, sleeping and waking up. Like, anything you need, guys, anything you need, it was there. That's the depth of that relationship, and that wasn't the case up to 2017, right? So crisis has a way of actually helping forge some of the strongest bonds, and also create some of the strongest shared experiences that people can ever. And sometimes even when you want to misbehave in such relationships, you remember the pains you went through together, and that just keeps you grounded. And so sometimes there's this saying that never let a good crisis go to waste. Yeah, it's probably something around that, like when it comes to friendship as well. So allow that crisis to forge a deeper bond, a stronger bond between you and whoever you are trying to to strengthen your relationships with. So yeah, that is one thing that I would say. Okay, cool. So we've talked about crisis, right? Um, um, how much time do I have left?
Well, so let's say 10 to 15.
Eh?
We are going to add like 10 to 15.
10 to 15 minutes, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, let me take 15 minutes. All right, cool. So we want to talk about resilience, and I think well, no, we want to talk about like building resilient friendships, right? What are the ingredients of actually building a resilient friendship, right? What are the key things that beyond getting involved in an accident together, which God I forbid it for everyone on this call. There are a bunch of things that I've highlighted here, but I think because of time, I will jump straight into. I'll just talk about communication. We all know what communication is. You have to, uh, clear communication. Also, don't just, I'll spend so much time on that. One key thing that I will talk about is vulnerability. And I think some people that have my number, whatever, may have seen me share something about this on my WhatsApp status one time back. One of the things that I struggle with today, and I think if some of you that joined at the beginning of this call, this particular one, you remember that I mentioned that my dad and my mom went separate and all those things, and I was just living from house to house, different houses, and it's true, that was my experience. And I remember at some point there was a time that I went to Ibadan Grammar School, Molite, um, Montanians. So I went to Baragama school, and I think is it me and you that went to the Baragama school? Or is
No, no, me, I went to good
Stevie?
school.
Okay,
Stephen went to the same
Stevie,
school.
Stevie, yeah. All right. So I went to Baragama, and I remember I was living with my dad in Ibadan then, and and his wife was living with us as well. Like, so he's remarried, whatever. And this woman hated my guts for whatever reason. And I think, I don't know. Also, I was a teenager at the time, and so teenagers are rebellious. So maybe I was just insolent. But I also knew that she could have done more to actually win me over, especially because I was just mad at my dad for all of this. You know how it is. Anyway, um, to the extent that and then my dad is always this very, very spiritual person that at some point he said there was an instruction from God that he has to be going to the mountain every single day. So from work he gets back home, eats, and then we go to the mountain, right, to do night vigil. And we're doing that consistently for months. And for me, what that means is that I have to take my bath, wear my clothes, wear my school clothes. I was going to grammar school, and we're living in Yano Church. Some of you that maybe know Ibadan will know in Yano Church. And I need to go from Yano Church to Molete every day. And the mountain was in Ojo. So we'll go from Yano Church to Ojo, and then from Ojo I'll find my way to Molete. It's like 2 or 3 buses to get to Molete. You go to Mokola, from Mokola to one thing, and then you end up in Molete. And it was tough for me. It was really tough for me every single day. And the cold on the mountain was also very, very tough. So I would have worn my school my school uniform at night. After I'll have my bath at night, wear my school uniform, and then go and sleep. And then I'll wake up in the morning, and then I'll go from there to school. So at some point I rebelled. I was like, Daddy, I'm not doing this again. And him and his wife, they got hungry, whatever, and they left me at home alone. And I was there. And there was no light. There was no light. I remember just being alone at home consistently for months on end. And there'll be no light. There'll be no kerosene in the lantern. And I would be there alone. I'll lie down on the couch, and I would think about a lot of things. Sometimes I will sing and cry and do whatever. And it was a secluded house, so I don't have any friends. There was nobody. Like, there was absolutely nobody. So it's like I descended to the depth of Hades. I don't know if you guys understand what that means. Like, it's like I descended to the depth of Hades. I was always looking forward to daybreak so I can go to school and meet my friends. Sometimes I ran away from home, right, at some point. Like, and then I was sometimes sitting under a bridge one day, and then this couple, they found me, and then they're like, "Hey, Mole, whatever." I mean, sorry, hey boy, what are you doing, whatever. And then it took me, like, "What's your name, Mole, whatever?" And then, although my first name is Sean, so anyway, they took care of me. Thank God they were not kidnappers, because I won't be here speaking. They took care of me, and they took me back home again. Here I was back home again, so to the darkness and everything. There was nothing. And so having to overcome all of that, right, guys, eventually my dad said one day, go back home, and it was like, see, go to the hostel. It was like, tomorrow when you come back from school, don't come home, just go to the hostel, go straight to the hostel, but grammar school hostel then. And he gave me 500 naira. Guys, this was 2003, maybe 2003. And that was the last time I saw my daddy alive, like in person. That was the last time. And he never came back. And I would be in the hostel. We will finish the term, and everybody will go home, and I had no home to go to. I'll call my dad. He'll be like, don't come home, don't shake any call. I'm not around. I'm not Kiniko. I'm telling you, I was in the hostel. Right? So I went through a lot. So going through all of that and then getting to where I am today by God's grace, I will sometimes because you've built that resilience over time. For some of you on this call, you probably have gone through something similar. Because you build that resilience, it's difficult for you to be vulnerable. That is, I've learned to do things by myself. I learned to trust only God to do anything, right? While I've had amazing friendships that have pushed me here, whenever there is a problem that I'm facing, the first thing I think about will probably be, what can I do to solve this out? Or that I just talk to God about it and keep it moving. I don't always think first, like, who amongst my friends can I call? And that, be it finances, be it emotional, be it career-wise, anything. I don't think about who among my friends. And to God be the glory, I have been able to. I always think about what do I give to people without thinking of anything back. Like, that's the kind of person I am. And is born out of all of my experiences. Just like, see, I just want to keep depositing in you. I never think about, like, what am I going to get back in return? And that hurts. As much as we will say, oh, that's a good trait, guys, it is not absolutely good. Mostly because it affects relationships. When a relationship is just one-sided, and this, we are used to one-sidedness of someone that's just taking. If you are someone that's always giving in a relationship and you never allow others to give back to you, it affects the relationship. It shows lack of vulnerability. And with lack of vulnerability, you don't get to the depth of relationships. You don't get to the depth of it. And when you don't get to the depth of it, you only stay in the second zone that I described earlier. At best, you stay in that second zone. You don't go deeper. And it is people that go into the depth that actually sees the most value out of relationships. So I would say that if there's anything, and I am learning intentionally what vulnerability, and I'll give you an example. For example, like right now, if so like a couple of months back, I want to renew my Nigerian passport, right? Here in the UK. And I was thinking about, and I've been battling this issue with NIN. So now you have to put in NIN number, whatever. So my NIN was generated by GTB, whatever. I didn't even know. So when I put in that inside the immigration website to renew, they said something went wrong. And then I've been going up and down trying to resolve the whole thing. And it's just not working. And guess what, guys? By virtue of the experiences that I've had, the places that I've been to, the people that I've just deposited into their lives, and the schools that I've attended, I literally have friends in almost every area of life. Like people that if I pick up my phone and I say, hey, Baba, Alpha, I need your help, they'll be like, what do you need? What do you need now? Because to them, they're just wondering, Ojo, which day would Imole call me to just ask for help? This guy just never asked for help, right? So my baby just called me one day, was like, this thing that you've been battling with, you've spent money, doing call. And this is one of my friends, like very good friend. This guy, likes me so much, whatever. And he has like he works with NIN and all those things, whatever. And he's also like a diplomat of some sort that is always like all over the world. And I was like, that's true. But it was a Botkini. My wife was like, Botkini, just call him now. I was like, she's quickly dialed on the phone and call, and then I say, hello, Imole, what's up? And I was like, Baba, she was like, tell him. She was showing that, she was signaling to me, tell him. I was like, okay, Baba, I'm having this issue with 991. I was like, you for don't tell me now. Kiniko. But don't worry, I'm not running. I go run them now. Within 1 week, guys, it solved the whole problem for me. And I'm telling you, solved the whole problem for me. It was like, oh yeah, go and put it in the kidney. If we want your passport next tomorrow, we'll do it. I was like, don't worry about that. I'm telling you. So vulnerability is important. Vulnerability, and that means that you cannot just be the one giving. They've been teaching us to not be taken, right? But you should also not be overgive. You should not be giving alone without taking. You have to be intentional about taking as well. I don't know, it's counterintuitive, right? So it has to be like intentional. Like even now, I'm intentional about and I think I've not done it, but I probably want to do it. I would have to call my friends and say, hey, I need £1,000, Baba. I beg, quickly run me £1,000. Like quickly run me £1,000. Because I learned this thing from Samson. Samson would be like, you know, whenever he meets new people, especially when we're running past them, and these people are be like, Imole, what can I do for this? What can I, as soon as he's done something for a person, be like, I need to take something from him to make him feel like, I also, like, I'm also a, like, I have skin in the game, essentially. So when something borrows the someone's money and the person returns it, he would also end up saying, can you borrow me, or can you, that kind of thing. He will also get something from that person, not because he want. Sometimes he will just take that thing and then return it the next day or 1 week after. It's just it keeps things going. It keeps relationship. I don't know how to say. There are some veils that you need to open in a relationship. But if you are just still being nice to each other, you are just, hey bro, sis, you have not entered into the depth of that relationship yet. You need to tear it. You need to tear that nylon, and the way to do it is vulnerability. You need to tear that rubber. It's like you just bought a brand new car. You need to tear that nylon. You need to tear it. That's when you can really enjoy it. That's when you can really start saying you have a relationship. Right? So that is very important. Don't just be the giver that's just giving alone. And it's not even in case of you are just giving and giving, they are not giving you back. No, is that when you see that this is the kind of person that I would like to go deeper in a relationship with. This is not just romantic relationships. Then don't just be the giver. Take as well. Take, right? And take in such a way that is not, in a way that doesn't offend God. You get what I mean? So yeah, Muiwa, I've used the whole 15 minutes, have you?
Yes, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Let me jump into like the next one. This is the last one I have. Some common challenges with friendships. We all know how it is. This is probably my favorite slide because I was able to do some some gymnastics on this screen. Distance, right? We all know what distance is to friendships, right? And I think one of the things that I think I'm also guilty of is this. I have friends from like primary school, whatever. To be honest, the only friend I remember from my primary school days is Samuel. Samuel at this point is just probably like a placeholder name, like because that guy, by the last time I saw him in Ijebode, I'm not sure he even recognized me, but me, I recognized him, and I can't even say hello to him, right? And sometimes, we yeah, the distance has caused a lot of problems, and I think this jackpot thing probably is also one of those things, right? It's caused issues with friendships, right? And some friendships will never remain the same, right? But it will take a lot of intentionality to make sure that the friendships that I take hold dear in my heart, regardless of what the distance is, I will make it happen. I will make time for it. Right? People travel across continents just to be with their friends. And just chat about random things. It's not as though they want to go and close a deal or whatever, but they travel across continents to make that happen. If that relationship means a lot to you, you do anything possible to keep it going, to keep it fresh, and to invest in, right? Time constraints, of course, we know what that is. And me, I'm also very guilty of this one as well. I don't. I'm just trying to rush through these things, guys. Time constraints, yeah. See, sometimes I just scroll. Sometimes I will find time and just scroll through my WhatsApp, like just look through my list of friends, and I will remember, oh, this guy, it's been a while, and I'll just drop the person a message and say, hey, what's up? But I only do that list scrolling through WhatsApp for like maybe once a year. Oh my god. And yeah, I think one should learn to do that. And that will be like, and so one thing that I want to practice now is that the same way I have a calendar and reminders for all sort of random things, I want to have a reminder to block out a piece of time to say, okay, call, message X, message Y. Even if I can't call them, just message and say, hey, how are you? How's your family? How are you doing? I'm thinking about you. And I pray that everything you're chasing, you're trusting the Lord for comes true. That's it. At that point, one thing I always remember, what I notice is that immediately you remember people, they remember you. Also, even if it's just on my WhatsApp status, just say something that can be helpful to my friends. For example, like for example, when I talked about that vulnerability thing on my WhatsApp status, right? I just realized that there are some people that have my number since 2012, whatever, and they still have it, and they sometimes see my status. Some people see your status on WhatsApp, and you don't know that they see it, right? And these are people that have had my number since 19 yeah, and they just remember something. Once they see it, they just remember me. And then that's when they remember that, Imole, there's this, I know you're a tech guy. I have this opening, help me find the front-end engineer. And there's a front-end engineer guy that has messaged me like a week before that said, Imole, if there's any job, I beg, let me know. Asama me with the job. And I'll be like, And that's how I end up connecting people together. So even by the time, reaching out to people, remembering your friends and making sure that you overcome that time constraint, it's not just beneficial to you, it's beneficial to other people that are tied to you, essentially. And of course, achievements. To be honest, this one is the hardest one for me. As I grow, as exposure became a thing for me, as I achieved quite a lot of things in life, as my thinking evolves, there's a lot of friends that I've had in the past that we are not on that level, that same wavelength anymore. And it's not being proud. It's just a case of like anytime I'm in their presence, I will have to shrink myself. I will have to not be myself again, because I would have to bring myself down to their level. You know how it feels like when you are in the midst of kids, right? Essentially, you have to try to be a kid for them to really like you. And that's the situation that I sometimes find myself with. And so with this distance and everything of Japa, it's very even easy for me to not even say hello, to not do whatever. But 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 every single person have their purpose in one's life. And so if there's anything I need to learn out of this, guys, is that regardless of whether I'm in a different wavelength or whatever, you have to learn. Because if, like for example, my daughter, and this is what what the Lord is like dropping in my heart. Yes, we may not be on the same level, we may not have been exposed to the same things, or have the same experiences or whatever in life, but they have things that they can benefit my life, things that can benefit my life. The same way my daughter, if I'm interacting with her, I have to bring myself down, and we'll play together, I'll be rolling on the floor together, whatever. It's the same way I have to do for them. I will not, because my daughter is a kid, I'll just not talk to her again and say, okay, when you grow old, they'll come and talk to me. No, I will bring myself down to her level because I love her. And I want her to love me and to know me as her father. And there are benefits I'm having by just playing with her, by just being there for her. Right? There are benefits to my life. And it's the same with friends as well. Yes, you don't have to do that every single time. And typically they will tell you in the world, they will say, surround yourself with people that are better than you, that are this and that, they are whatever. And in that case, the more you do that, then the more you abandon people that you started with. Right? Yes, you may not be there for them every single day, but take time. And I think this is for me. This is me talking to myself. Take time. To bring yourself down to their level and check in. There are things they will say, things they will do, that even when they speak it out of their mouth, they don't know the value of it. They just say it. But you, because of your exposure and your experience and your knowledge and your everything, you can take that in and you process it and you get something different out of it. You get that veil that is covering your eyes will just open immediately. That has happened to me. And these are the key reasons why I know that every single person carries something. They will just say something or do something. And that'll be the key to something you've been finding, you've been looking for. Right? Yeah. So I'm gonna stop here. At this point, thank you very much, guys. God bless. All right, I will stop sharing my screen, and I think this is the point where uh, I think Muiwa said there's some questions and things. So, guys, if you have questions, please share.
All right. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you for sharing. We really do appreciate this. Yeah, there's a question here. You said when we give, we should also take. What if the person we are giving doesn't have something to give back? Like just help the person out through some challenges. Are we meant to take back from such person?
It's a good question. It's a very good question, especially when it's. I think the first place to start is: do you would like, you can be acquainted with someone, but by the time you spend some time with them, you look at it and say, "This is the kind of person I would like to have a deeper relationship with." It doesn't have to be romantic, yeah. Like if if this is the kind of person, if that person fits that criteria of the kind of person that you want to spend time with and you want to go deeper with, then there's always something that person can actually give to you. It could be that you want them to give you their time. It doesn't have to be money, right? It doesn't have to be like, it could be their time. uh Someone that is alive probably have the time, right? And if they don't have the time, it could be their attention, right? It could be, you are trying to move or you're trying to do something in your house. Just say they should come and join you for it. In doing all of this thing, in them giving to you, is how you create that shared experiences that we are talking about earlier. That's why all of these things come together. So there's always something someone can give. And that's my point, right? There's always something someone can give. You just need to find it. Like, what does this person have in abundance that I can ask for? Even if it's just their time, like invite them to your, I don't know, to your birthday. That's them giving their time to you, right? Um, uh, I don't know. Tell them to buy your to buy your goods that you are selling. But just think about it. What is that thing that this person has beyond money, beyond you know whatever, that you can actually ask for, right? And that yeah, and once you ask for those things, they'll be like, they'll also be happy because they've already been too indebted to you. You've been giving, 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 giving. They've already been too in the. If they're a good person, they would have been thinking of a way to give back to you. So the day you ask for something, they will be so overjoyed. They'll be like, finally, at least I have a way to. I have one day to. There's something I can give to this person. I remember, I remember one of my birthdays, whatever. I think there was this person that the person still is in Nigeria, whatever. Maybe I just did something. I can't remember what I did. And this person just knew about my birthday. I think whatever, just called me up and said, send me your account number. And they sent me 10,000 naira, something like that. You know, they gave me like, and that, I was telling my wife, I said, this money means a lot to me, right? This like, and the person, I'm sure they have been thinking in their mind, like, what can I give to this person? What can I give to this person? You get me? And he says 10,000. That I valued that 10,000. I valued it so much. Like that 10,000 is not up to. Is it up to £10 now? Probably not. It's not up to 10. It's not up to 10 pounds. It's like £5, maybe less, maybe £4, right? But the heart from which that money came from, oh my God, I valued it. And not just that, they too, I can tell side of their heart of hearts. They'll be like, finally, I'm able to do something for this person.